like my mouth is currently opening up and things are going to come out of it, and I literally don't know what they are right now.
Well, what happens when you go up as yourself? You literally black out.
Yeah, true.
Like, best case scenario is you black out and you do it right. Hello, it's Dave Dilly from Vibe Union here, vibing out, having a golden time with, we got Jay Kepler for the first time up on the Vibe Union podcast. Welcome. Good to see, aka
Oh,
Jake.
hey Dilly, how you doing?
Response is optional at this point.
I was in that thing of like, I wasn't sure when you were
don't know
finished
if I'm gonna
talking to
throw to
me
Rye
or if
right
you were
away.
talking to people watching.
Yeah.
If you're talking to Rye.
What's what happens when
My
you...
name is Jake. Hello. Nice to meet you.
Now, I'm the host. Hello.
Sorry.
I'm Dilly Dave. And so that's Jay Keps. Jay Keps is he's an exciting, fresh scout on the scene. And next to Jake, of course, we've got an OG, an old and golden, a golden girl, if you will. Rye, a.k.a. Rhath, or Rhath, a.k.a. Rye, however you want to
G'day.
place it.
How are you all doing?
We're good. We're feeling it.
Sweet. I'm actually really enjoying this green tea that I've been provided
This
with.
is excellent. This is good to hear.
Well, talking about
beautiful
green
pot
tea, you
as
know, it's
well.
right to acknowledge the traditional custodians of this land, the Wurundjeri people of the Kulin Nation. The sovereignty of this land was never ceded. I want to acknowledge elders past, present, emerging. The conversation is open. We got to know where we are at, and where we are at is not our own, and home is where the heart is.
That was excellent. I like that little tie, that little bow you tied on the end there.
Thank you.
Gorgeous.
It's got to be embodied of the body. Anyway, so this is great. Obviously, Vibe Union podcast. Many things to consider when we're doing the Vibe Union podcast. You will find us on most platforms, except for a few scattered ones. I don't think we've got a WhatsApp. Actually, we do have a WhatsApp group, but that's kind of closed off. As I said in the past, we don't have Parler. There's many different podcast platforms. There's stereo. We're not on stereo. It's an interesting consideration, though. But yeah, you're going to find us on the main ones. And what you want to do is, aside from liking, following, subscribing, and all of these things, comments are really, it's a really valuable bit of asset or currency for us to have.
Cha-ching.
Jay Keps, do you want to talk about the importance of comments and people commenting on our content just for a sec?
I mean, to speak on a topic that I have never spoken about before,
Feel
my
free
understanding
to.
it's really important to have engagement with your audience, because not only is it favored by the algorithms that run these websites and platforms that are starting to kind of run our lives. That's not
Preach.
what we're talking about today, though, but
It's always
it's
part
real.
of what's happening.
It's kind of just the undercurrent of everything now. Not only is that the case, but also I think this is a time and place in the world, in our society, where creating a sense of community is a really important thing. And
Bing, bing, bing,
if
bing,
that
bing. He
is
said
not
the
what
key
Vibe
word.
Union is about, I don't know what the heck fire it is about, and I hope you're about it too, whoever you are.
And the word of
We're
the
about
week
it.
is community.
Community. I love that
Spell
show.
it out for us. I'm kidding, Jay. You don't have to spell it out for us. But yeah, well said.
You.
Mutiny.
Hell yeah.
So yeah, please,
get
start
the
whatever
hook.
kind of dialogue that you want with us. We've said this in the past, whether it's negative, positive, forward thinking, or backwards. You can give it up to us, and we just want to have a bit of two-way with you. We're not talking about three ways at this point. We're gonna be a bit further in our relationship for that to happen.
There's sort of more communication that needs to happen. Things that need to be unpacked, insecurities that maybe need to be expressed and worked through together.
Yeah.
But
So aside
one
from
day.
two ways and three ways, yes, thank you for following. This is our 21st
Yeah, it is.
podcast.
And this will be the first time in many episodes that we've actually said the correct number of episodes.
I've noticed that.
Really? Yeah, I
noticed
noticed
that.
that the last couple.
And do you want
bit
to
of
know
a
what I
thing.
think the underlying
Funny if
issue
it's actually
with that is?
wrong.
Yeah, what?
It's that whenever I'm the host, I get it right, but whenever anyone else is the host, they don't get it right. I'm kidding.
Watch out, all you other hosts.
It's actually an interesting point.
Called out.
Oh, that's so funny. Anyway, so we've got J Keps on board to talk a few things. So we were at Come Together Festival yesterday, and inspired by the day at the moment, Vibe Union put on a 40-minute, about a 40-minute set. And aside from that being a wonderful occasion, getting to share the music with the people, you had a bit of an idea for a podcast topic. So if you want to take it off, lead us in any direction, please give us a prompt.
Sure, I'm gonna start, and then if I fumble, you guys will pick me up.
Yeah, we'll catch you.
We're all a
That's
team
what we're here for.
The idea that I guess I've been thinking about this a lot lately is like this idea of authenticity coming off of performers, because I've been going to more live performances in the last couple of months than I have, especially last year. But even before that, this is the densest packing of live performances that I think I've been to in my life. And in that time, I've had a chance to really, I think, reflect on what it is that I've been enjoying about them so much, because I've been absolutely loving it. It's just like this completely intoxicating experience of it. And I think a massive part of it, aside from just like being there to witness the raw talent and passion coming off of people, has been this through line of authenticity, and coming with it this sense of like communal acceptance between the people up on stage and people in the crowd as well.
So it sounds like you're talking about bridging the gap between the performer and the audience in a way.
Absolutely.
And authenticity is a key part in doing that.
Definitely. I mean, the Lyrebird gigs, the vibration variations that VU has hosted at Lyrebird Lounge down in Ripponlea. Check them out. They're good.
Shout-outs.
Lovely folks running the bar down there. I would say a really huge part of that has been that engagement between bridging that gap between the folks up on stage and the folks in the audience. Like
100%.
direct engagement, like someone will yell something out and it just becomes part of the act. Bit of engagement. I'm thinking of you asking if there are pirates in the audience and getting everyone to make the hook and like, "Arr!"
Yes.
That meme got me hard the
All
first
for one
time.
and one for all.
Arr. And
You got a bit of residual pirate left over, don't you?
Yeah, I can't get it out. I've been
Nor should you want to.
positively boarded by piracy.
You've been hooked.
I've been hooked. I've got the scurvy. But the open mic stuff.
Often the
at
highlight of the
Lyrebird,
night.
Absolutely. Like that really exemplifies it for me. The first time it happened, it seemed like it was a pretty impromptu thing.
Yeah.
But
It was entirely impromptu. One of
Yeah.
our members
Yeah.
just started doing it, and we, I think the other people running the night were not really talked to about that. They just jumped on the mic and was like,
Right.
"Oh, we're going to do open mic now." That's great.
well, for those of you who weren't there, it was amazing. It was first time I'd been to an open mic, and people just freaking went with it. Like one of the guys who always rocks up, absolute beautiful soul, Jono. Like, it was probably my most memorable performance from the night, which is funny because I ended up going up as well, but he just took the cake. I was
Well, you
so...
think you were going to be the best?
No, just
No,
like...
what happens when you
I
go-
figured I would be more memorable for myself, but
Right.
genuinely, I remember his performance better.
Well, what happens when you go up as yourself? You literally black out.
Yeah, true.
Like,
Yeah.
best case scenario is you black out and you do it right.
All I remember are shining lights and fear.
Yeah.
But he just got up there and he just like ripped it and was like falling over the stage doing his like punk rock amazing just embodied thing. And just in that moment I was just like, I see you, motherfucker.
Yeah.
And you're beautiful.
Yeah.
Thank you for sharing that.
And he
That's
felt
so
like,
cool.
it wasn't like we knew him or set him up to do anything. He just felt like subconsciously we had given him permission to go up and do his thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. Which is powerful. It's nice to know that, because the stage is so daunting, the mic is so daunting, even for those who feel like, they've got something to give. But, a lot of people come to these nights without thinking that they're going to jump up on the open mic, and then, everyone does their thing. That, I guess we all try to be as authentic as possible in the sense of just kind of letting go and being vulnerable and, enjoying it and not trying to overthink it. And yeah.
So then, so we're speaking on an example of what we believe is hopefully the peak of authenticity and connection between the audience and the artist. But this conversation, I know, stemmed from the polar opposite of that.
Yes.
And without naming any names or places or dates or any times or anything, we know that we all were at a gig recently where we felt the opposite of that, where we felt someone not really present in the moment. Now, do you have any thoughts on on anything in particular that you noticed that lacked, or like why, or what was your initial reaction to that? Like what kind of got this thought going for you?
I, in fact, was not at this gig. I heard about this gig secondhand. But I know You've
seen it before with other artists.
I've seen it before with other artists. Cool. Yeah, and from what I've heard of other people's experiences in that same situation, and from what I've gathered with my own, it's this thing of like, I guess, playing a role, like putting on a character, which isn't to say that you can't embody a character in this role that isn't you and have it still be genuine in some way, because you absolutely can, because I'm sorry, you're not a pirate, Dilly.
Yeah, well, one track out of every fucking VU set I am. Same with Rhath and same with everyone else.
Like, you can get into a role and you can make it your own. And I guess it's almost like you're using it to express some truth within yourself, like you're using it as a vehicle.
Yeah, it's like for the sake of the art instead of for the sake of self-defense, or like keeping yourself.
Yeah, right. Self-defense. That's a really cool.
So I play a paladin in World of Warcraft, and it's all about kind of being defensive and using these kind of tactics.
Dilly was raiding this morning.
Dilly was raiding this morning.
Dilly was raiding this morning.
Yeah, I'm a bit of an addict.
Raiding. Hell yeah.
So I guess like for me, like there's been a lot of talk recently between several VU members, and in fact I'll actually shout out Mutha specifically for this part as well, because she's been really trying to tap into this and figure out what she wants to do with it.
Yeah.
Is that I think the normal situation on stage to what is expected is, like, in terms of who's giving and who's receiving, is 100% artist giving and the audience is 100% receiving. They sit there, and the only time that they, in fact, if you were to like look at something in a more traditional sense of performance, like a classical musical piece, you shut the fuck up until the very end of the concert, and then you give a little bit of an applause.
Right. There's certainly no crowd participation, no call and response. There's none of that. And
I've been to a number of classical performances, which I think is a really good example of the opposite of what we want to see. I used to date a classical musician, and so I went to a lot of these things, and age difference was an interesting one. There was it definitely skewed towards an older generation. And the thing that really bothered me the most was the ritual of it. It was as I said, so like during a movement, is it a full? Yeah, the movement of a piece, when it hits the end and there's a lull, because that's the end of the movement, but it's not the end of the piece, you do not clap during this part. You sit there silent. And that silence in between tracks, to me, is deafening and really, really awkward. And then at the end, everyone claps. But the performance stand up, they walk off stage, and then they walk back on. And that happens every single time. That is a ritual that they go through. You have to walk off, you come back on.
Take off the mask, then come back on as the person behind it, in a way.
Yeah, in a sense, yeah. And at times I get it. At times it looks really cool. It is a very romantic idea of performance. But I could not be more I really, in that setting, I love the piece, because also these people have put in enormous amounts of work into what they're doing. So they're
phenomenal pieces.
World-class pieces, world-class players. So the music, I'm 100% there. But though I don't see that sort of ritual from, plenty of rappers and other performers that we see, there is still, to me, that disconnect of like, I am here to perform this thing. I'm basically reading the lines to you, going through the motions, and then at the end you guys can clap. And though it's at the end of every track, it still has that same feel for me.
Instead of trying to create this back and forth throughout the whole piece.
Yeah.
Which includes eye contact, engagement, gesturing towards people, I guess in a way trying to open up your track in any way, kind of being open to people if they think that they know the words or can get along, encouraging people to do that. Maybe like closing the distance between the audience and yourself on stage, using more open body language to kind of like spread yourself out, to be like, look at me, I'm vulnerable, take it in a way. There's so many different things that you can do that closes, and there is like a vast difference between the approach of the classical music entertainment and what we're doing. It's just like, it's a genre difference, but it's still a fantastic example. But what we're trying to do is get everyone pretty much exactly on board with what we're doing as much as possible, which is, as we talked about before, closing that distance, bridging the gap between the audience and the performer, because at the end of the day, we are all both. I think that's the idea. The idea is that we are all artists, performers, have capacity to appreciate music on same level. Therefore, there should be little to no difference. Like, there's a reason there's a stage and a mic, right? There's a reason why you give somebody attention for a little bit.
Yeah.
But then if that person comes off stage and now they're the audience and they're ready to give that energy back to the next person who's performing, which I feel like is a strength of Vibe Union. We're here for ourselves and each other and what other artists are performing around as well. I hate dancing, but if I like what's happening, with another artist, who is from Vibe Union or not from Vibe Union, I'm going to be like, all right, well, I'm going to move along to your thing and kind of show you that I'm, you're giving me energy and I'm trying to give you a little bit back,
Yeah, because also if you're seeking to give them the best performance that they've ever seen, the best way to do that is to do a transaction of energy. So if they are giving you energy, you're going to give more back as well.
Right.
If you're going up there and say, like, if you walk off stage and just going, that audience sucked, they were super cold, super non-present, then you also kind of know that your performance was directly impacted.
Yeah, you're responsible, and even if there were 3 people there, at the end of the day, you can still get 3 people to nod their head to your music and what you're doing.
One of the best gigs I've ever done in my life was to 3 people. There's at the Gasso. This was probably like 5.
It's such a dope venue as well.
5 or 6 years ago. It was upstairs, not on the main stage. I traveled down to from Castlemaine with my mate, Wade on the drums, me on guitar, doing basically trying to be the White Stripes. And we had a maximum 10 people in the room. We were headlining, even though, whatever, we organized a small gig with some friends. 10 people at the max. It ended up being the other band and one other person in the room.
Yeah.
And then just us 2. And we were like, well, we've got a bigger sound system than we're used to. So this can also just be a fun rehearsal for us. So we just turned the energy up to 11, started jumping around. I ended up kicking one of his drums over, threw my guitar on the ground between tracks and picked it up again. And just did it for us. And the other band in the audience were like, that was fucking great. That felt like such an intimate moment between you guys and also us, because we're the only ones here to witness what happened for kind of no reason. But when you just dial it up, crazy.
What could have been a poor night for those 3 people ended up being like, oh, that was kind of dope. Because, nobody else got to experience that, super intimate, and you weren't looking for reasons not to perform and be yourselves.
Yeah. I keep bringing this back to comedy.
Back to reality. Yup, they go.
Gravity. I think because they're such similar. I guess they're such similar worlds. They're both in performance, obviously, but I think there's a forced authenticity to comedy because you have to earn laughter every single gig.
Which is like pandering, right?
Pardon?
Which is pandering, right? A forced authenticity.
Yeah. So if you've got because with music you've got your script. You are just performing the same songs every single time for the most part.
You're not necessarily as much reading the crowd.
Yeah. You don't necessarily need to. I believe the best performers do. But I've been listening a lot to Conan's podcast, and one part of the thing I'm most attracted to, like comedy, because I've always wanted to be a stand-up in some form, but I think the part that actually really attracted me to it was the lifestyle of being around other funny people. And one thing that Conan's been talking about a lot on his podcast is the moments he has with comedians that aren't being recorded are always the best, funniest parts of his life.
Right.
For example, I think he was on a flight with Will Ferrell, and they just riffed for the entire flight. And if they had set up a camera and recorded it, they probably would have made a bunch of fucking money if they put it online and got it streamed, because like people would fucking, eat that shit up. But it was just purely for them.
But also, if they put on that camera, it could have compromised completely what they were, whether they were intending to do that or not. You know what I mean? It's like as soon as it's like, oh, we're rolling, like for a lot of people, that just completely changes the dynamic of their output.
That's true.
For sure.
But yeah, if somebody was secretly filming that, wow, golden, because they don't know and they're just being them without anyone else in mind, which is probably, drawing closer towards that authentic kind of feel where it's like, it's just me in the moment and I'm not really worried about everyone else. But then, yeah, I mean that's one idea of authenticity.
Yeah.
And then there's the other one where it's like, I'm going to be real for the people.
Do you think then a lot of artists think of almost every gig as just another step towards towards their great moment?
I don't like, I guess okay. So I think it's all about like what your focus is. Like if your focus is getting, the 10, the 100,000 views on whatever it is, whatever platform, then just another live show might be like, I don't care as long as I get more numbers and streams. I'm only doing this to kind of push numbers. But for me, when I perform, it's like, I love that moment, that whole feeling, that set, like everything in that. Like I would perform pretty much anywhere for pretty much any crowd for the sake of enjoying the thing that I do and trying to share that on whatever level with people. And whether it's, laundry and it's like a 15-minute set and I don't really know anyone there and maybe they do or do not vibe with what's happening, at the end of the day, I'm not doing this just to accrue numbers. That isn't my benchmark for success. It's more like the feelings generated, and if that translates to people continuing to follow what you do, then that's a good indication that you're doing something that's good. But yeah, it's more about, like, I'm very motivated just to do a live show without any payment, and if there's a bunch of people in the room, that's dope as hell.
All right, here's how much do you enjoy the banter between tracks? Is that a big part for you?
You're talking to me. Yeah,
Yeah,
cool.
Yeah. I'll get Jake's answer as well, though.
So the kind of set that I do at the moment is tight in terms of there isn't so much room for banter, even though I like those moments of banter, and even though I think that I'm pretty good at talking shit between whatever with the crowd. Like, I do like that.
It's confirmed.
Yeah, there we go. I appreciate that.
I am often laughing.
Jay Kepler, yeah, you get it.
Either with or at.
Yeah. And the latter is generally better because, a little bit of guilt and shame in it. And that feels good. But, yeah. All right. So what is the banter doing? The banter is like the period of time where you kind of like humanize yourself and try and get on everyone's level. And doesn't always have to be through self-deprecation, which I know some artists like to use. I'm not looking at Rye or anything. But
I changed. I'm changing, at least.
But yeah, I think if you need glue between your tracks to keep the momentum going, good. But if you're doing it for the sake of like trying to get a laugh, or like I'm not like my next song is this and it's about this. It's like you either feel it, you're on the ride, or you're not. Like it's there. I'm not here to break down what I'm doing. Happy to talk about what I'm doing afterwards. But yeah, I think for me, banter is good if you want to take away a lull. Say, for example, it's taking a minute or more seconds for the track to come in, or there's whatever pause. You need to have something up your sleeve. But it's not about forcing it. And if you've got nothing to say, you could be like, oh boy, do I have nothing to say in this moment. I really wish I could feel the void that's happening right now. I feel like I haven't, risen myself to this level. I know the audience is watching me right now. They've got such huge expectations of what I'm doing. I like to run my mouth, but now I'm out of things to say. But I've been saying something for the past 20 seconds, so it's kind of interesting. Yeah.
I would laugh at that.
There you
I
go.
just
You
did.
Jake, when you were on, when you were doing the open mic at the VU night, do you remember, was there banter between after?
Or was it straight terror and fear?
There was terror and fear. Genuinely, having lights in my face was quite helpful because I couldn't see most of the people in the crowd. Could only see like the small pocket of VU people right up the front. I do remember bantering a little bit. I mentioned that I'd meant to go to the toilet before I came up on stage, but then I didn't because I was too busy watching all the freaking cool people.
That's
who were
good.
doing
That's
their
real.
Sets.
That's good banter.
So I was worried I was going to piss myself on the stage. What's the policy on swearing on the podcast?
Do it, please.
Do it.
We
Not
try and avoid
gratuitous,
I
but
think
like
we try and avoid like
natural.
in the first like 4 minutes or something like that.
Okay.
Just for the
We've
algorithm.
done great so far.
Yeah.
Though.
Okay. Sweet. So
Only when necessary. Don't force it.
Of course. Yeah. I won't do the bit. I think I mentioned that, and then I think I mentioned that actually in that song there was going to be a lot of swearing and potentially intense vibes. So like, if you're not into it, there's a really nice courtyard out the back with fairy lights and stuff like that. You can go hang out there. And then I was just talking shit, and then you had been ready to start the track for some time at that point.
Yeah.
And I was like, and you're like, are we good to go? I'm like, yeah, let's go.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know about banter. I guess that's banter though, right? That was audience engagement. I was talking to people.
Yeah. Well, you don't want to stand awkwardly and be like, "Is the track ready?"
That's a bad look.
It's
to me.
like, no, you go.
I think because when you were talking about focus before, like what your focus is when you get up on stage, I feel like having not done it a heap just yet, I'm sort of just extrapolating what I generally value and focus on in my life. Like I feel as if my focus is in having moments of genuine connection and recognition with others, as well as like, I just find being able to actually share a positive experience with another conscious being.
My God, man, you just took every word out of my mind that I was like trying to feel. I was like, I wonder if he's going to say this. Yeah, he said that, he said that, he said that, he said that. And yeah, that's pretty much everything I would have said.
Fucking oath, right? Like,
yeah.
I mean, it doesn't even, I was kind of having a thought whilst you were speaking before of like, it doesn't necessarily have to be this moment of perfect recognition and connection with another person.
And most of those moments are imperfect.
Exactly,
actually.
because how can you really, truly know what another person means?
Manufacture perfection.
Yeah.
Manufacture perfection. Yeah,
like
impossible.
even if they've expressed themselves perfectly, you probably won't interpret it perfectly. But I think there's something truly fucking, hey, there's one. Truly like,
my go-to word's
divine,
powerful.
or
Divine's a great
I can't
word.
even.
Divine's great.
There aren't words good enough for it. About being able to share a positive experience with another person or another, like even having pets or something, and like there's sitting on your lap, giving them a pat, and it's just like, I'm enjoying this, you're enjoying this, we're communicating right now, we're sharing something positive, even though
Mutual
we are
lubrication.
different, if you like.
So
and I think that's my focus. But
yeah, so that's kind of the reason why I bring up the banter in between tracks, because so for what we're doing during our tracks, what we're doing as rappers, we for the most part, having a band would be fucking great, but we have backing tracks. So that backing track isn't going to stop for nobody. It's not going to change. It's not going to do anything that you don't expect. That's going to be exactly the same. So when then you're rapping along to it or singing or what have you, then that is pretty much by the numbers every single time, right? Ideally, because unless you forget your lines. There can be room for freestyle. There can be room for whatever. You can change up your tone of voice and all that kind of stuff. But for the most part, it's pretty locked in.
The script's there.
Yeah.
And back in the day when I was playing in bands, I did really enjoy that aspect of, if the drummer would throw in a fill that I didn't expect, or just decide like, hey, I'm just going to drum halftime for this instead. Let's just break it down for this part. Or the end of a song, we're like, this song's pretty jamming. Let's not end it. Let's just keep going around, doing a little bit more. That's kind of cool.
Yeah.
And so for me, I don't think there's so much further I need to go with my banter on stage. But for me, that's actually now my tool for forcing myself into the moment, because I love not planning what I'm about to say. I love just saying the first word and having that thought of like, oh, fuck. I don't know what I'm going to say next. I don't know where this is going to go.
Now.
And sometimes it really falls flat in his face. That can be fun though as well, because if you acknowledge that it falls flat in the face, that's going to be funny. Definitely at my album launch, there was plenty of falling on my face because I was so fucking hot on stage.
But also,
it was so warm in
the best saves, the best saves and comebacks every time. There's a word that I was gonna use that kind of summarizes or sums up what you're talking about. It's like surrender. Yeah.
Yeah.
You're surrendering to the moment, and ego can get in the way of surrender. Right. So, and the thing is, at the end of the day, you are a performer at the whim of the audience. You are there to like serve and entertain.
Yeah,
it's an
you
act
are
of
actually
service.
there to do it. You actually do have a job to do.
Yeah,
they're not there to see you 100%. You're also
figure
there
it out on the spot. They're not there to see you figure out something on the spot. They're like,
oh, that's true as well.
You know what I mean?
Course.
But that's not sorry to interrupt. But that's not to take away from like the whole idea of like improv and jamming and all that kind of stuff. But they're not there. You know, you have to be at that level to make that happen. Which it sounds like that example was. But yeah, you can't be like, I mean, at the start of Vibe Union performing for people, we're figuring out how to be on stage and everything, but we've already figured out the tracks, right?
Definitely. I think you want to have your parts off by hand,
right,
to do the performance, to have that job as well. But they're there to see you perform, but they're also there to share a real live moment, because otherwise they could go watch a movie, they could go listen to your tracks online, they could do what have you, right? There's no point in going to see a live act. And we've all been to gigs where
I know what you're about to talk to. Sorry, I know what you're about to talk about.
We've all gone to gigs where I wasn't going to go there, but now I am going to go there. I've seen artists who have their vocals still in the track.
All of them.
All of the vocals, the lead vocals, the backing vocals, everything is there. I've got some backing vocals on my choruses because I just want that to be beefed up a little bit,
Which
right?
is perfect, and like that is like the art of doing it. And even for like your main verse or whatever, have some either ad-libs or maybe if you want something underlying like just a little bit.
Yeah, totally fine. I think that's good.
If the backing track's doing more work than you are.
The backing track, I've seen people who go up with the backing track is doing more work, and also if you were lip syncing perfectly and I didn't notice, then kind of cool. I mean, I can always tell because the vocals sound too good. You okay?
Yummy.
If you're only listening to audio, apologies. Dilly's dying.
Drink
I took the mic away.
Laughing. No, we're just for the silence.
I was choking on vodka Red Bulls.
There's one thing I can't stand. It's silence.
I mean, on a podcast, it's literally like the last thing you want to.
Sorry, go on.
Though all my favorite podcasts embrace dead air, and I
just
think
enjoy the
funny.
moment for 2 minutes straight and say nothing. What do you reckon?
It's not Anzac Day.
I was hoping Dilly would jump on board there and let it run.
I'm never going to jump on board of silence, but let's go back to the backing tracks.
Backing tracks and vocals, blah, blah, blah. So, and so I can already tell that it's a backing track because the vocals are too crisp. And then also they take the mic away. I've seen them take the mic away and the vocals keep going, and I'm like, dude, if you are not bringing something else to the table, because at that point I've already made this point on the podcast numerous times, but if you're not bringing a level of realness and performance to this, then what are you doing? Because if someone gets up there and they're dry as fuck, I don't feel connected to them as an artist in any way, but they are fucking ridiculously good on the mic.
Right.
If they have got vocal chops for days and just blow me away, like those classical musicians. I'm not feeling connected to them emotionally.
Right.
But I'm like, these guys can play. These guys have put in the time. I can't say shit about this. I don't like the ritual, but as musicians, no, I still got my money's worth.
Respect the art.
100%.
Respect the craft.
But if you get up there and kind of half mumble your way through it, and your vocals are still in there, and there's no real effort to like jump around and go crazy,
Right.
raise it above just watching a music video.
You
then
either have to be like
I
a
don't
hella
really care.
dancer, or if you got the backing track and stuff there, you have to go over it like a motherfucker. You have to like add this strong layer the whole way through and show
Yeah.
that you can keep up with it. And then it's like it hits really hard because you've got all these layers and stuff. But
if you're hearing it and you're just thinking like, that backing track sounds really good.
right,
Yeah.
exactly.
Nice.
That's not the thing you're meant to be taken away from it. Yeah.
But so let's go then in the polar opposite direction
Mm-hmm.
of freestyle rapping, because I know both of you guys really enjoy freestyle rapping. I'm trying to get into it. I'm practicing every
So
day, and I'll do it soon enough.
Flipping
But,
fun.
so you freestyle on stage, right? I think
Yes.
you freestyled at Usu with me, right?
I did, yes.
Yeah, cool.
Correct.
And I know Dilly freestyled at Usu and freestyles any chance he gets, be it just driving down to the shops with me.
Uh-huh.
We're always exploring the realms of of our
The
imaginations.
free form.
Honest in a live setting on stage,
Uh-huh.
what is your favorite part about that? What gets you the most excited about
The favorite
freestyling?
part, or another good question is like, what's
Yeah.
the approach as well?
Sure, that's good. Yeah.
Favorite part. I mean, the favorite part always is when it works.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
The favorite part is
Yeah.
like, oh, this is working, and then as soon as you think, oh, this is working, then it stops working. So it's like
And then you got to forget about
Yes.
it.
it's a wild,
until
it's
it
a wild
starts working
fine line.
again.
Yeah, you got to be so in the moment. You're not thinking about
Yeah.
the moment. That's the most fun part when it works. But there's a whole lot of things that you have to do to set yourself up for that to happen in the first place, and like some of them include, practicing the thing that you're trying to pull off, right? It's like, skateboarding or whatever other thing you want to perform or pursue in the world. You have to practice the thing. Otherwise, your expectation of it working out, especially in front of other people in the moment, I mean, if you haven't done the work, it doesn't translate. And sometimes the work is 10 minutes a day or 30 minutes
Yeah.
a week or whatever it is. Like, you don't have to go ham. But if you go ham, then people see the result. I also enjoy favorable parts of being up on stage freestyling is when I get to see people responding, like getting any kind of respond. If they like hear and understand what the hell you're saying and give you any kind of response, that's good. It's one thing to quote unquote freestyle, but if people have no idea what it is that you're actually saying, or they can't keep with the flow and the vibe, then they're going to awkwardly look away from you. And that's just
Yeah.
something that is fine and happens, and it's just a natural human response. And you have to get comfortable with any kind of response from people witnessing the thing that you're trying to do. You should have like little to no expectation of what the audience is going to give you. You just got to go and do your best.
Yeah, sometimes a genuine reaction is going to be one that you don't like, right?
Yeah,
That
very
you're not
well said.
comfortable with.
That's it. It's like, okay, well, I wasn't that great, and this particular person obviously didn't seem very impressed. And well, there you go. You've got your feedback, you've got your response, and you can do with that what you want.
For sure. And maybe your takeaway is like, well, they seem dumb anyway. I don't care what they
It's
think.
horrible.
But
It's so horrible.
I mean, but maybe
I know what you're saying.
they are.
That is a response. You can put it
but,
on them.
But
at the end
but
of
you
the
don't need to.
Yeah, exactly. You could be impartial and indifferent. But you could be like, they just don't get me. But that could really feed into this dangerous trap of creating the distance between the audience, because to think that you're smarter than anyone else is just, it's one of those ideas that can only get you in trouble.
Yeah, I mean, once you stop listening to feedback, then where do you go
Totally.
from there?
And anyone with any IQ can like get you on any number of different level. I'm not here trying to Jake said the bad thing, but it's just because you learn by having weird expectations from people, because you think that you deserve this thing that's happening, but it's just actually lucky that you get to go up there or get any like stage time or mic time in the first place. Anyway, so favorable things when it works, when you get a bit of a response from the crowd. The approach is to like have no expectations, to surrender yourself in the moment, take in what's happening around you, especially when it's freestyle. If you're like, I have no idea what to say, there's other people watching, they're wearing clothes, you're in this room, you're in this space, there's so many things you can like pull upon in that moment. And often what you'll find that the typical go-to for a freestyle rapper who's got nothing to rap about, they will rap about not having anything to rap about. You know what I mean? They'll be like, you know what, I got nothing to say, play and I go and... But yeah,
Definitely.
please, Jake, talk to me about your favorable moments.
My favorite thing about it is that moment, moment where I decide, I don't know what the hell I'm going to say, but my mouth is currently opening up and things are going to come out of it. And I literally don't know what they are right now. And then it just happens anyway. And I don't know what part of that is my favorite, whether it's like that weird moment of complete loss of self, because I don't know how else to describe that, because like I'm not making a decision right then. Like I don't know where that's coming from. Or if it's after the fact when I am then able to reflect back on the last few bars and I'm like, did I just come up with that? What the hell? Because every once in a while the stars align and you're just like, that's actually that's a bar that I would write and feel really good about, as opposed to being a bar that I'm like satisfied with coming up on the spot. It's something that's actually kind of like true. It's just like you've happened on the right kind of flow and the right kind of rhymes, and you're just like, what? I mean that fully. Like,
It's imbued with meaning. Sorry, go on.
For sure. There was this particular one when I was up at USU, like where essentially I had this moment of feeling quite self-conscious up on the stage and just looking at all the different people looking at me while I was freestyling. And I don't remember what the rhyme was, but I was basically communicating that I didn't feel sure of myself and what I was doing, but that I felt confident that some truth of who I was in that moment was being communicated to the people looking at me. And I could see on their faces that they could recognize that in me. And that from that, I felt this sense of like safety and acceptance in that moment, even in that profound discomfort.
Right. Yeah. Well, bless your vulnerability, Jake. God bless your vulnerability.
Thank you, Dilly.
And I think that kind of like rounds off what we're saying in terms of like, that's the key, is this authentic experience that the audience is looking for comes from pure vulnerability and not exactly knowing what's coming next yourself. And it's great to have your lines. It's great to have those writtens as well to elevate the performance level. But I think that's a very exciting thing about freestyling. You're free falling, just as I enjoy like the banter in between tracks as well.
Right.
Because the audience are really, really smart, I think. And I think they know when it's bullshit. But they really know when it's real.
They appreciate when you're exploring the unknown as well.
Yeah, that's why I think so many people connect with Amutha, because I think Amutha is one of the most present performers I've ever seen in my life. I love that she takes often a pause before she does anything. She'll just sit there.
Have a breath.
I was sitting there with Wade, who did sound at my Orbits launch, and he and she started to pause on stage just before her set began, and Wade was like, dude, are you supposed to be playing the track? Play the track. And I was like, no. Just give it a second. Almost like 10 seconds passed, and then she started speaking.
A prayer, Wade. She's saying a prayer.
But yeah, the audience know. The audience always, in my mind, they always know when you are present, when you're authentic. And the only way to be that is by being vulnerable and being in the moment.
Surrender. Beautiful. We took a 360, Jake. I know you could probably rattle the rattle for many days, weeks.
Are we short on time?
I think we're potentially over time in terms of the reflection. We're so good at the thing that we're trying to do, which is just to be open, express, and articulate the inner thoughts and feels. Jake Kepler, thank you so much for giving us your scope on life and things, and being a wonderful both member, contributor, and cult member of Vibe Union. Rhath,
it's very cheap cult to join. It's
very
great.
cheap. Sometimes we even
only
buy
a few
you drink.
pints of blood.
Yeah. I mean, you got to. We reimburse pints of beer for pints of blood that we have to take. That's the
O negative, so I got a pretty good deal.
That's the ratio we got.
But thank
Rhath, any Rhath?
Yeah.
Any final words for us?
Catch Jake on Friday at Lyrebird.
There
Do
we go.
That's my final thoughts.
Who else can you catch on that Friday at Lyrebird?
Ooh, you can catch Sixpence.
Sixpence.
I'm so keen to see him have a set.
Yeah.
Too cool?
He's got Too Cool. You can catch Too Cool.
I honestly can't remember. I didn't book this one.
You can catch me too.
Dilly Dave. Oh, no.
You rat bastards.
I'm so sorry.
You can catch a half of who you see right now at Lyrebird. This coming Friday. Is it the 19th?
No, yeah.
Did you say the 16th?
26th would be the
I
week
said
after.
26th, but that's the week
yeah.
after.
You said 19th, Lyrebird and Ripperley. This has been the Vibe Union podcast. Can you believe it? 21 episodes deep. We keep on doing things. Keep following us on all the valid platforms. We want your feedback. We want your engagement, but we don't want to get engaged with you yet. You know, even though some of the members are single, this is not a dating expedition of ours.
It isn't, no. And not all of us are fully into the idea of traditional marriage either.
Well, I am, but I can understand why other people aren't, and that's fine. Each to their own. No, I'm kidding. Bless up. Peace. Thank you.